Okay, Manny. Who are we probing today? Oh, come on, Manny. You said I could probe somebody.
Hey, this is Manny Moonraker, and welcome to episode number 102. We have a special guest today by the name of Gary Parker, and the interview is about to start. But I just want to say, Gary is enthusiastic. He had an experience over the last 2 years that he wants to share with people because he believes there is a message in there for everyone. And like I said when we had the Czech Girls episode, you have to keep an open mind when you listen to folks that have these experiences. Because the truth is that there is something that we're dealing with when it comes to the alien ET UFO connection. And there are different perspectives out there that we should explore. So Gary Parker had one of those experiences. And there's a date that he wants everyone to keep in mind. So sit back, relax. And here's Gary Parker. Hey folks, welcome today. I have with me Gary Parker, and Gary has a fascinating story regarding some situations out in Egypt and the pyramids. And we know that historically, folks have had a fascination with the pyramids in Egypt and what they might hold for humanity as far as secrets that maybe we've lost over the years. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, man. It's great to be here. Thanks a lot, man.
So listen, you sent me the information. I posted the pictures that you sent in the Facebook group, UBR Truth Seekers, UFO Bus Radio, and Manny Moonraker's pages. But I had to post them because I know people are going to want to look at these pictures as you go through explaining what it is that you discovered. And I can tell you right now, it's pretty fascinating what you've seen. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about who is Gary Parker.
Well, I'm just I'm a simple guy. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. I went to the University of Delaware. I moved out to California in the late 70s. I became a real estate developer, and I was lucky enough to sell a couple movie scripts. And I've also been a member of the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, for 22 years. I did have one movie that was made, that was produced. It was called Thank Heaven, and it starred Jenny McCarthy. And I'm still in the business. I still sell scripts, and I still write. I work with some producers and stuff like that. But what happens is, about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I had this wild idea, and I thought of it as a movie. And then I thought, well, no, I could really make this happen. And it was an idea where I could raise some money to restore the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. And I thought, well, maybe that could create some world peace where the whole world, I could globally crowdfund a project to restore the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. And when I say restore, I don't mean take it apart and make it functioning to run again. Mm-hmm. What I was talking about, just make it look nicer. You know, like whenever you look at the pyramid, the three pyramids in the Giza Plateau and the Sphinx, they're falling apart. I mean, it looks like they're going to fall down. So I said, what if everybody in the world put in a few bucks and we did a whole global thing to promote world peace? So I thought about this, and I thought, well, you know, this is such a fun idea. So I actually pitched it to a few producer friends, and they said, Gary, that's great. So I said, and then we could actually have it where 24 hours it could be filmed so we could watch the project being restored right from day one, and let's say it took 5 or 6 years to do. And like I said, I don't mean moving the blocks or anything. I mean like adding up some stucco, the original stucco from olden days, because as you know, in the second pyramid, there is still some stucco there. We get that, we test it, and all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, I thought, well, you know, I need some startup money, so I should talk to a couple billionaires. Who better to talk to? So what happened was a couple of my producer friends, I called them and I said, do you guys have any billionaire friends where I could go maybe get a couple, maybe $10, $20 million to get this project going? Well, one of my friends, he did. He had an email to Sir Richard Branson, from Virgin Atlantic. You know Virgin Atlantic, correct?
Oh, right? Absolutely.
And also Virgin Galactic. And then also Elon Musk and from SpaceX. And also Tesla and PayPal and all that kind of good stuff. So what happens is I email him. Manny, the very next day, I get an email back from Sir Richard Branson. He says to me, Gary, I don't know how you got my email. He said, but I love this idea. I would love to be part of a project that restores the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. I was blown away, Manny, because I didn't expect any response, right? But if you think about it, what a fun idea. What a cool idea to maybe promote world peace and help Egypt, because Egypt thinks everybody hates them. Well, the whole world would show we don't hate them. Anyway, so I email Richard Branson back. And I say, look, this is in its infancy, this project. Give me a little time. I'll get back to you. But thank you so much for your future support. Manny, 2 hours after I sent that email, Elon Musk did not email me back, but a lady by the name of Gwyneth Shotwell, who is the president of SpaceX, she emails me back. And she said, Gary, I don't know how you got Elon's email, but we love this idea, and we would love to be part of this if it's real. And it blew me away, Manny. And I emailed her back right away, and I said, Miss Shotwell, I said, this is amazing. I said, yes. I said, I'm really going to do this. It's going to happen. And I actually have Sir Richard Branson who wants to get involved if I can get this thing happening. So she emails me back. She goes, we'll keep Elon and I in the loop, and we would love to be part of it. So I said, oh my God, this is amazing. So I'm so excited. I said, well, you know what? Before I do anything, naturally, I sent an email off to the Egyptian ambassador in Washington, D.C., because you have to have the Egyptian government behind it, naturally.
Right.
So then I said, well, you know what? I should do a close-up look at the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, and maybe I'll pull up a NASA photo, and just look where I could put property and men, where I could put machinery and men, because as you know, the Giza Plateau is a sacred site. You can't just walk on there and drive a big rig on there, and you can't
exactly.
do it.
So you're pretty much trying to survey it.
There you go. It's exactly what I want to do. So I pulled up an International Space Station photo of the Great of Egypt and the Cairo. So, and I zoom in. Well, you got to remember, when most people who look at the photos from the International Space Station, they just look at them and they just move on. Nobody zooms in. So I zoomed in really close to the Great Pyramid, like real close. And from space, I kind of saw some shadow on the south side. Now, the photo I looked at, if I can I tell the file number to your listeners so they can pull it up themselves, even though you haven't downloaded?
Yeah.
See, so the file number is ISS 032-E-009123. Let me just repeat that. The file number from the International Space Station and NASA, their website, is ISS 032-E-009123. And that's the International Space Station photo that I downloaded, that you have on your website. So as I zoom in, and you got to remember one thing too, I found out later that this photo was purposely downloaded upside down. So when you're looking at the photo, when you look north, which is up, that is south. Down is north. So anyway, Manny, as I zoom in on the Great Pyramid, I see something on the south side, right beside the Great Pyramid, that looks like writing. I mean, it looks like clouds from a distance. The International Space Station takes these photos from 200 miles above Earth. So as I'm zooming in, I look on the south side of the Great Pyramid, and I notice it looks like writing. These clouds, it looks like writing. And as I zoom in closer, it really looks like writing. At first it looks like a cloud, then it looks like shadows, and as you zoom in even closer, it looks like writing. So I wrote it down because I said, my God, that looks like writing, and it's gigantic. I take a picture with my phone, and I send it to a couple Judaic scholars, Aramaic scholars, and to a couple Egyptologists in Egypt. And I said, and I wrote on the message, I said, can somebody tell me what this says? Now, as you know, you can pretty much email any academic or Egyptologist. They have their numbers located. You can pull up their email address on the internet because they all work at universities. So anyway, so I sent it to these people, and maybe a day later I get some email back, and they say, a couple of Judaic scholars and Aramaic scholars said, yeah, we think we know what this means. Where did you find it? I didn't want to tell them, because anytime you talk about the Great Pyramid, people think you're nuts.
Exactly.
So I said, right, they think you're crazy. So So one of them said, yes, I see there's the word I, the word M, and a word creator, or the word God, and they were kind of hitting around the mark, and no one could get exactly what it meant. And I got an email from a lady who's very famous. Her name is Dr. Salima Ikram, and she's an Egyptologist that actually lives in Cairo, and she's the head Egyptologist, professor at the American University at Cairo. And she emailed me back, and she said, Gary, you got to tell me where you found this. And I said, finally I emailed her the picture, and I said, look on the south side of the Great Pyramid. She saw it. She emailed me back. She goes, Gary, this is impossible. She said, I don't know exactly what this means, but it is letters. And she said, but it's impossible. She said, there's no buildings there that could make these letters. She said, it's impossible. And she said, and some of the letters are going up onto the pyramid. I said, I know, it's amazing. So anyway, I let it go.
So are these like shadows?
Now that they look like shadows, yes, they look like shadows, but as you zoom in, they actually turn into ancient letters. And I think I sent it to you. I think I did send you the letters.
Yeah, I do have the picture. But it's kind of strange that she's in Egypt and then she doesn't realize that this is there.
Yes. Well, she said, you can only see it from the sky because they're so huge. You can only see it from the sky. Wow. On the ground, you can't see it. You can't. If you're standing there, there's no way you can see it. That's how big it is. So anyway, I'll tell you what the letters say. They actually say, "I am who I am, creator of all things." That's what the translation ends up being. But Manny, what happens is I not only did I find those letters, but a little further away from the Great Pyramid, I found some ancient Hebrew. And I knew what ancient Hebrew was just because, sometimes you're on the internet, you see Hebrew and blah, 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 but I didn't know what it meant. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just seeing things. So I jotted down the ancient Hebrew and I sent it to these scholars. Oh, I forgot to mention. Let me just back up. After a while, most of the Aramaic scholars and the Judaic scholars said to me that I had to send them the photo. I had to reveal where I found it. Most of them said, Gary, you photoshopped this. So they accused me of photoshopping it. Yes, and I emailed them, and I said, no. I said, go to the NASA website, and you'll see it's on their website. I didn't Photoshop anything. They all refused to do it. Only one, a Judaic scholar down here at the University of Arizona his name is Dr. Edward Wright. Really great guy, worked on the Dead Sea Scrolls. Really nice guy. I sent him not only did I send him this letters that are beside the Great Pyramid, but I also sent him the ancient Hebrew letters. So when I sent him the ancient Hebrew letters, he said, Gary, yeah, I know what these say. They actually say God and the Lord of the underworld. And he said, you got to come down to my office and show me where you found these. Well, luckily for me, I'm only an hour and a half away from the University of Arizona. So I drive down to the university, and I meet with him, and the guy's really nice, and he goes, okay, show me this. Well, Manny, when you walk into one of these academic guys' office with a picture of Egypt, a photo of Egypt from the International Space Station, and you zoom in, all of a sudden he goes, Gary, this is impossible. I said, Dr. Wright, I'm telling you, it's a message. Someone put it here, and they want us to see it. So I show him where it is. And he says, Gary, look, I see it. I see it as plain as day. He said, but Gary, I can't believe this. He says, I've been doing this for 40 years. You come in here and show me a NASA photo with all this writing on it? He said, he goes, Gary, I can't believe it. You're going to have to leave. And I said, what can I do? I thought, yeah, he kicks me. So I said to him, well, you know what? I understand what you're talking about. You don't know me. I may have put this here. I said, but how many people know ancient Hebrew? He goes, well, very few. And I go, yeah. I said, Dr. Wright, please, if you could examine the photo after I leave. Well, he didn't, and he pretty much just kicked me out. So anyway, so that's the kind of thing I've been running into. So all of a sudden, Manny, this is it. So after all this happened, I found out a lot more stuff in the photo. And actually, because it was ancient Hebrew, I said, well, you know what? I should go talk with some rabbis, because, rabbis deal with, a lot of rabbis, they deal with the Torah, they deal with all these manuscripts, and they all have to do with ancient Hebrew. So I go over here to Phoenix, I drive up to Phoenix, and I go to a couple temples, and I meet with 5 rabbis, and they're all seeing it, and I show them all the stuff and all the letters, and one of the rabbis go, Gary, listen, not only did they find the letters, the first one that said, I am who I am, creator of all things, and God and the Lord of the underworld, one of the rabbis says, Gary, written right here, I see a date. It's in ancient Hebrew. And I go, well, what's the date? And they said July 26, 2022. And I go, well, that's kind of weird because the photo was downloaded on July 26, 2012. Okay? So I said, boy, that's really kind of a little bit of a coincidence. And then I thought to myself, well, what else happened like I said, it was downloaded from the NASA, from the International Space Station onto the internet on July 26, 2012. So in December 21st of 2012, which is 5 months away from July 26, 2012, is when the Mayan calendar ended. And I said, my God, I wonder if this is some kind of alien message. So, Manny, so I'm meeting with all these, and also the rabbi said to me, they said, Gary, listen, man, we have a problem with this because, first of all, we believe that there's only miracles can happen in Israel. And I said, you're kidding me. And they go, no, that's what we really believe. And we also believe that the only miracles can happen to a Jew. And I said, well, okay. I said, well, you wouldn't think I was Jewish, but actually my great-grandparents on my mother's side were both Jewish. I didn't know that at the time because I came back and I did one of those genealogy searches to see if I had any Jewish blood in me. So I'm thinking, well, how am I connected to this? Other than I'm the guy who came up with the idea to restore the Great Pyramid. So, right? Okay, so all of a sudden, that night after I had met with the rabbis, I come home, and Manny, just know this. In my life, I've never had any paranormal experience. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen an alien. I've never, nothing like that has ever happened to me. All of a sudden, that night, I have a dream. And in the dream, I hear a voice. It was a man's voice, and it sounds like it's coming from a tunnel, and it says, Gary, go to the river, stand in the river, in the water, face east, and say these words in Hebrew, okay? And the words were, Father, 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 holy, 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 where did you come from? Where did you really come from? Well, Manny, I don't know Hebrew, but when I got this message, I thought, I wonder if all this is connected. I should go. Well, luckily for me, there's a river right down here from me. It's called the Gila River. And it's in a little small town called, it runs through Arizona, but it actually puddles up. There's a big, almost like lake part of it in a place called Florence, Arizona, which is only 4 miles away from me. So I said, you know what, I should go down there because, like I said, man, I've never had this experience before. And since I had just met with the rabbis and I had went down to the Judaic scholar, and I'm starting to find all this stuff, I think, well, you know what, Gary, you should go down there and see if this works. So, Manny, I go down to the river. Like I said, the river's not flowing, but it puddles up, and there's a lot of water in this one area. So I get in the water. It's maybe, I'm going to say, 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like 400 or 500 yards off the main street. There's no traffic going by. I just take my shoes off, excuse me, and I stand in the water. I'm facing east. Oh, and also because I didn't know how to speak Hebrew. What I did was I Googled one of those Google translators on the internet,
and
it taught me how to do it. But they're amazing. Yeah. So anyway, and it took me like a day to figure it out phonetically how to say it. You know what I mean? Because I've never spoken Hebrew a day in my life. So I stand in the water, I face east, I put my hands up, and I yell out really loud because the voice told me to do this in a mantra, like a sing-songy, vibe. So I yell out and I say, Abba, 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 Kadosh, 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 which means Father, 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 Holy, Holy, Holy. Where did you come from? Where did you really come from? And I say it really loud, and I say it like 3 or 4 times. It takes me like 5 or 6 minutes. And I'm expecting something to happen there at the water. Well, nothing happens. So I do it a couple more times, and I go, okay, I've done it enough. Manny, I come home. The next morning, I wake up. It's like 5:45 in the morning. Manny, I'm covered in sweat. Manny, I sleep like a baby my whole life. Like 8 hours, I never move. And all of a sudden, I sit up and I go, what's wrong with me? I'm covered in sweat. I look at my computer that's off. It's off on my desk. It pops on to the photo of the NASA photo. I can see things in this photo, Manny. First of all, I think, holy cow, it worked. This is unbelievable. Somehow I'm getting some kind of connection. I look at the photo, Manny. I can see in this photo, and I think hopefully I send it to your you have this one on your email. On your website. I look at the photo and I notice that on the NASA photo, the one that I gave your fans, your listeners, file number 2, I notice on the right side, the complete right side of the photo, which is the Giza Plateau, and on the left-hand side is Cairo with the Nile River running through it. I can see on the right-hand side that the whole Giza Plateau is the left profile of an alien. If you look at it, if your listeners look at it, you can see the whole right side, where it looks like sand, and it goes from the top to the bottom, is the left profile of an alien. The alien doesn't look like a gray alien. It looks like the Queen Nefertiti. Do you know who Nefertiti is? The bust, right. The famous bust.
Yes.
She was Akhenaten's wife. But if you look at the photo, it's a left profile, like her head. It's huge. It takes up the whole top of the Giza Plateau, and then as you come down, you can see right where the Great Pyramid is would be the alien's nostril. You see a little point above there would be his nose. It comes down. There's a lip. And then you can kind of see his mouth. And where there's buildings, you can see are kind of like his teeth. And then there's a round chin, and it comes down to a real thick neck. So I said, oh, my God, that looks like an alien. And then I zoom in on the photo, and I notice that I can see everything in the photo. There's like thousands and thousands of images. Now, it's hard to explain over the phone and show tell your listeners how to see all the images. But let me just say this. When I saw this alien's, the left side of the alien's profile, I said, oh, my God, this is amazing. I said, I wonder if this works. So I got back in my car. I drove right down to the river. I stood in the river, and I yelled up the same words, and then I yelled out this. I said, hey, just like talking with you and me. I said, hey. I said, is this really happening? I said, this is amazing. I said, if this is happening, please, I want to know everything. I want to see everything. I said, so send me whatever you have to do it for me. And so Manny, the very next morning, 5:45 in the morning, again, I wake up soaking wet in sweat. I go to the NASA photo, Manny. I not only can see everything, it's totally amazing. And then, anyway, do you have a question? Because I feel like I'm going on and on.
No, I mean, it's perfect. But for those that are listening, if you go on to the Facebook pages, you will actually see the picture that we're talking about right now. And you even have a sketch of it, Gary, where you actually kind of took the background out and just sketched it out.
Yes, what I did is I if you notice, I actually outlined the alien in red.
Yes.
Do you have that? Do you have that photo? I outlined him. Good. I outlined him in red, which is cool. Now, Manny, what happened was naturally after this happened, and I saw the alien, I said, well, you know what I should do? I should call NASA. Okay. So just to let them know it's in the photo. So what I did was I emailed NASA, and there's a place called the Ames Research Center in Northern California. Right. They're the guys that handle the robots going on Mars. Okay. Mm-hmm. And remember, this was approximately 18 months ago. So I emailed, believe it or not, I got the president's email of the Ames Research Center. His name was Dr. Don't tell me, Peter Worden, Dr. Peter Worden, W-O-R-D-E-N. And you can get his email. You could get his email right off the internet. So I sent it to him, and I expected and I told him my heading was a discovery in Egypt, Great Pyramid, ancient writing, and blah, blah, blah. And so I figured there's no way that this guy was going to email me back because they're so busy, and they probably get these kind of emails all the time. Manny, 10 minutes after I sent the email, Dr. Worden emailed me back and said, send me the photo. I want to see it. 10 minutes later. Okay. So that told me, I thought to myself, well, my gosh, maybe they're looking for things that are coming from Egypt. Maybe his department is, or maybe I just got lucky. So anyway, so I emailed him back and I said, here's the photo. This is how you find it. This is where you can see it, and this is where you can find it. And I outlined everything. So maybe the next morning he emails me back and says, Gary, I can't see it. And I said, well, are you following my instructions? Because in order to see everything on the photo, you should use a laptop computer. It should be dark. Yeah, and there's certain steps you have to take. Mm. So I said to him, I emailed him back and I said, Dr. Warden, are you in a dark room? Do you have it down? Do you have the picture downloaded onto your laptop? And he emailed me back and said no. So I said, well, call me and I'll instruct you over the phone. So he calls me. So we're on the phone and I said, to make the room as dark as possible. Use your laptop computer. I said, now tilt the screen back. He said, okay. I said, and then all of a sudden I said, now zoom in here. He zooms in. He goes, Gary, I see it. I go, that's right. I said, now zoom back out. He zooms back out. And I said, now can you see the outline of the alien's face, the profile? He said, yeah, I see it. I said, now I want you to see another thing. So I showed him maybe 3 or 4 more things. And he goes, Gary, I see it all. He said, listen, give me a couple weeks. I want to talk to people about this, and I'm going to get back to you. I said, fantastic. Thank you so much. And I said, the whole photo is a message to mankind. And he goes, okay, I'll get back to you. Manny, 3 weeks later, he retires from NASA. He never called me back. He retires from NASA. He started a company with the physicist Stephen Hawking, and they got a Russian billionaire involved. The Russian billionaire put in $100 million, and their new company is looking for ETs. Okay.
Isn't that amazing? So it's almost like you kind of opened the door for him to hit the road.
And I'm thinking to myself, come on, man, throw me a bone here. I'm the guy down at the river. I'm doing all this stuff. Because he actually said to me, Gary, how did you find this? And I said, you're not going to believe it. I said, I had a dream. I went down the river and blah, blah, blah. So 3 weeks later, he blows me off. He starts this company, which, okay, I get it. But Manny, the cool thing is this. Now, here's first of all, that upset me a little bit, but I said, okay, whatever. NASA's probably knows more than I know, or they don't. So what happens is, since that time I first went down to the river, I've been back there between 40 and say 45 times. Okay, because what happens is these beings who are on the photo actually say to me in a dream, go to the river. And so I go to the river, I do the whole spiel, and then I come back and I know more about the picture, and I know how to instruct people how to see these things. What happened though, Manny? This is the most amazing thing. Between the 36th and 38th time, because I don't know which one it was exactly, but it was an even one, the beings actually showed up. Okay, they actually showed up on the river. This being, the profile of the being actually showed up now, which is really wild because, and just know this, Manny, that was on the date that they showed up was July 26, 2016, which is actually when, as you remember, if you can remember in the conversation, the photo was downloaded on July 26, 2012. Right. The rabbis told me that they saw a date in there that was written in Hebrew was July 26, 2022. So everything had to do with July 26th. So I go down the river, and naturally, I've had friends and family come down to the river because I want them all to see it, and I want them all to try it. And also, I've had people photo me down there. They came down there, and they took photos of me, and they videotaped me down there at the river because I want to see if something showed up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of, a lot of times you take pictures around these paranormal events, and you catch things on film.
Well, you're right. So what happens, a buddy of mine caught something on me in the water. It was a kind of a green spirit that surrounded me, and it was a spirit of a woman. She actually has a face, but she looks Egyptian, and she had one of those Egyptian caps like Nefertiti does. You know what I mean? She had the elongated head, but it was kind of like a green spirit over me. So he caught that on the video, which was amazing. So, but this time I was by myself. I go down to the river. I do the whole spiel, and like I said, I've been there 35 times before. And I'm always expecting something to show up. I figure something eventually has to show up. So all of a sudden I say the words, out in the, as I'm looking east, I see that there's almost kind of like a rip in the sky. And when I say a rip in the sky, it looks like a prism, like all the different colors. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, it's moving like circular. And as it moves circular, it's moving a little bit to the north, and it hovers out above the water. And it's probably, I'm going to say 30 or 40 feet in front of me. As it's hovering, it's kind of these beings they morph out of the thing that's spinning above the water. And it almost looks like a bunch of crystals, like that kind of thing. So, and all of a sudden there's in front of me, and it doesn't just come out like boom, it appears. It kind of like grew out. When I say grew, it like blossomed out like a flower. Right. So all of a sudden in front of me is a vision. I don't know if you're familiar with Ezekiel. Have you ever heard of him? He's the guy that saw the spinning, the cherubim, these supposed angels that had 4 faces. Well, in the photo, there is, those angels are in this photo. The one with the 4 faces on the left-hand side is a lion, on the right side is actually a raven or an eagle. And, I've seen them in this photo, and actually I had a couple of the Judaic scholars that actually, because beside this cherubim, that's this angel that's in the photo with this alien, with the 4 faces, there was a name, and the name was Uriel. It was written in ancient Hebrew. And you've heard of Uriel. Have you heard of that one?
No, actually, no, I haven't.
Okay, well, Uriel is supposedly the angel or the cherubim that is on the left side of the Garden of Eden that stops people from entering the Garden of Eden. Anyway, so when this appeared, there was 2 of them, and they had the spinning wheels with the eyes, just like Ezekiel had said. Well, I recognized him, and I was excited. I said, "You're Uriel." And he said, "Yes." And Ezekiel said that they looked like they were on fire, like they were burnt brass, that they didn't look like they were kind of flying. Their wings were floating. They had 2 sets of wings that also had eyes. Yes. So what happens is I was excited, and like I said, there was nobody around though, because I'm in the middle of the desert where there's this water, this river. So above these 2 these 2 flat, what are they called? Angels. I'm going to call them angels just because it's easier. Right. And they had 4 faces, and I recognized one of them, and he actually spoke to me. His mouth moved, and like I said, they were on fire. When I say on fire, they looked like burnt brass. They were like, and Manny, above them was it was almost like a platform of crystals, and above the platform was the alien. And did you also get the picture where I drew the alien?
Yes, I actually did. That's actually uploaded in the group as well.
Yes, that is the alien that was standing on top of them. So the 2 angels were probably 18 to 20 feet tall, and the alien standing on the platform, who is the drawing that's on your website that I drew, he was standing on the platform, the crystal platform, and I could see his face. I mean, he kind of looked human, but it was still an alien face. He had the huge head and all that kind of stuff. But he also, inside his face, and he was about, I'm going to say maybe close to 25 to 30 feet tall. But inside his face were a bunch of human faces. They were men and women, but they looked like from biblical times. That's what they looked like. And
so
they were
like
all
ancient.
Yes, they were ancient-looking people, but they look like they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of like morphing his face, and they were all speaking. They all sound like they were speaking Hebrew. And the alien who was standing on top there, I could hear his thoughts. Like he could talk to me. His mouth wasn't moving, and also, man, he had huge shoulders. He had huge arms and hands, and he was wearing kind of like a red robe. And it was huge. And on the red robe, it looked like it was written ancient Hebrew. There, and the letters constantly kept moving. And on his chest, he was wearing like a breastplate, which had like different colored gems in it. And if you know anything about the Ark of the Covenant, when it was in the temple, in Solomon's temple, before the priest could go in, they would wear a hosen, it was called Hosen, and it was a breastplate with different colors. And ancient alien researchers, they said that was because the Ark of the Covenant emitted radioactivity. So they had to wait for certain gems on the breastplate to light up before they could enter the temple. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so anyway, so I'm standing in front of this all this stuff is going on, and in my head, all I'm thinking is, oh my God, I wish there was somebody here with a phone that could take a picture, because I don't know if people can see it. So, Manny, this really happened. I'm telling you, this was amazing. So, all of a sudden, out here in the middle of the desert, I hear motorcycles, ATVs, because a lot of kids there, they ride along this river, and they do motorcycle stunts, and they jump over the sand dunes, and mostly it's kids, not adults. So I see this one kid on a motorcycle, because I had to turn away, even though it was amazing. And this alien wanted to talk to me, but I still wanted somebody there to see this with me, because I thought no one's going to believe me. So here comes a kid on a motorcycle, and he pulls up beside me, and he yells at me, because he's on the riverbank, and like I said, it's all sand and sand dunes. And he says, "Hey, mister, what are you," and he was like maybe 15, 16. He goes, "What are you doing in that water?" And I said, "Hey, kid, can you see that?" And I pointed to everybody, to the vision. And he goes, "I can't." He goes, "What? I don't see anything." And I said, "Well, okay." He goes, "What are you doing in that water?" Manny, the water's disgusting. The water's not clean. It's filthy. And believe me, you would not want to get in this, okay? So what happens is, I said, "My feet were hot. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal." So right then I knew they couldn't see me. So I turn, and the alien standing on top says, "Gary, no one can see this but you at this time." He said, "Don't worry. I'm going to reveal everything to everybody soon." And I said, "Well, listen," I said, "what should I call you?" Well, as you know, when I did my mantra, I called him Abba, which is Father. He said, "Call me Abba." And I said, "Fine." I said, "This is so exciting." And I was talking with my mouth. He was talking telepathically. He didn't. And I said, "This is amazing." I said, "What does all this mean?" I said, "Does this mean that, are you telling me that you're coming back sometime in," I said, "everything seems to point to July 26th. And he said, "Yes, I'll be returning to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem on July 26th, 2022. And I said, "Well, listen up." I said, you have to give me something that I can show everybody. He said, "All the answers are in the NASA photo." And I said, "And if you look at the NASA photo, Manny, and I'm going to, if it's okay during the conversation, I'm going to jump back and forth now from what he told me to what is on the NASA photo. Is that cool?"
Sure.
Okay.
Now, let's take a pause for a second, because right now you're talking about that this all occurred in a period of 18 months?
Yes, exactly. Maybe a little closer to 2 years, but yes, 18 months. Yes.
So at this point, so you're confronted with this entity. What goes through your mind? I mean, this is a big change, even for a 2-year period that you're going through.
Well, Manny, I'm telling you, man, I didn't tell you one. First of all, over a 2-year period, I went on probably 200, maybe 130 to 140 meetings with academics and religious people, like religious leaders, and also mayors down here at these small towns. I went to everybody to show everybody everything, and to try to hope to get the academic community behind me. And it didn't happen. They all saw it. They all freaked out. Friends and family, they freaked out. And so, know this, Manny, after 18 months, I was ready to meet somebody. I said, "What's the next step? What's going to happen here?" Because something's got to happen, because no one's believing this. And I was foolish, because up until a month ago, I didn't contact the UFO community, which I should have done right from the beginning, because you guys embrace it. You want to know about this. So, and then after NASA kicked me, after that guy, Dr. Warden, did what he did, I thought, man, no one's going to believe me. So it didn't scare me, and I had a great reaction to it. So go ahead. What was your question again?
Basically, I mean, you're going through a significant change. You went from, writing a script to a film, which is, a pretty simple, everyday thing for some people, writing and getting a film produced, to right now you're dealing with alien entities, Hebrew writing, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
In a 2-year period, that's like a humongous change. Did you ever feel like, am I just losing it?
Well, no, not at all. But man, I couldn't tell you this part of the story until we got to this point of the story. And this happened to me before I was born. Okay, and my mother, after I was born, my mother had told me this story since I can remember, since I was like 4 or 5 years old, and she has told it to me every birthday I've had. She's 84 years old. I'm 59. So she's told it to me, this story, every year of my birthday. 10 minutes before I was born, she said that, Gary, I had passed out. I was in a dark room, and it felt like I was. She said, and a voice came to me, and it was a man's voice, and it was terrifying. She said I was so frightened, and she said the voice sounded like it was coming from a tunnel, and the voice said to her, "Where did you come from? Where did you really come from?" And it said it 3 times. And she said, Gary, I woke up and I started crying. She said, I didn't know what had happened. And she said, I was terrified. And I told the doctors, who said that? She said, back in the early 60s, they would give women drugs. So she thought it was that. And the doctors also said, we didn't say anything. So she said it was so terrifying that she felt that she had to tell me the story every birthday since that had happened. So for my whole life, I had always remembered those words. Where did you come from? Where did you really come from? So when I had that dream, I said, holy crap, this is my connection to this whole deal. And since I had been to the river so many times, I said, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't wait for the next thing to happen. So to answer your question, Manny, I've been prepared for this my whole life. So there you go. Does that help?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just for me, having an experience like that, number one, finding Hebrew in Egypt, and even finding all the things that you found in that one picture, I mean, I'd get freaked out, and then on top of that, you add an entity and forget about it.
So anyway, so it even gets cooler. So what happens was he told me that they were from, that they originated, the original planet was in the constellation of Cygnus. And he said, Gary, you'll see it on the photo. He said, you'll see it on the photo. Well, then I came back home, and he said, and the planet they came from was Sadr, S-A-D-R, okay? So if you look at the NASA photo, the one that I have outlined in red, I have the alien, his whole profile outlined in red, and then he's looking at, if you look across, on the side where Cairo is, you'll see the Nile River is running down the whole length of the photo, and then above there, it intersects with a street called Ring Road, which is an 8-lane freeway that goes, if you notice, it's actually in the shape, that whole cross section is in the shape of Cygnus, which is called the Northern Cross or the Swan. And if you download it onto a laptop, and you tilt it, you'll notice that all the lights, as you tilt the screen back, all the lights from Cairo disappear, and only one light remains, and it's at the intersection of the Nile River and Ring Road, and that is the planet Sadr, S-A-D-R. And I may have actually circled that and written Sadr on the photo. So Manny, it blew me away. I said, oh my God, that's the constellation of Cygnus. And like I said, if you tilt it, you'll notice that a lot of the lights from Cairo disappear, and you'll see the constellation shows up. I met with 3 astronomers here at the universities, at the university and ASU, Arizona State University, and they all refused to believe it. They said, Gary, that's impossible. And I said, okay. Well, as you know, I've been used to that. So that
right.
response. So that's impossible. I'm going to get that on my tombstone. But anyway, so then I said, well, yeah, I'm going to go up and meet with a couple professors that actually can build software and let them see this photo. So Manny, the photo, if you tilt the photo is it's actually 4 levels deep. And on each level, there's different things. As you zoom in and out, there's people, there's places. It's amazing. So I actually went up to Arizona State University, and there's a guy his name is Dr. Gupta, and they're both professors up there of computer science. And another one, his name was Dr. Whitehouse. They saw it. They said, Gary, this is impossible. We don't have this technology. This thing has 4 levels to it. I said, it's amazing, isn't it? Because I had them in a dark room, and they were looking at it, and I said, guys, I really could use your help. And they both said, Gary, we're academics. We can't get involved with this stuff. They said the only people that could really tell you anything about this would be NASA. They're the only ones with this kind of technology, even if they have it. And I said, well, I got kicked out of NASA. They won't respond to me anymore. So what happens was I said, I thought to myself, well, No one's believing me. They're not seeing it. So I went to a newspaper reporter, and there's a reporter down here in a small town in Florence, and it's called the Florence Reminder. And I go down there and I show him, and the reporter sees everything. And he says, Gary, I'm going to write a story about you. And I said, great, let's get it on the internet. Let's get it on the news. So he wrote a report, and you can actually, if you Google Florence Reminder, and that's FLORENCE Reminder, and the title is Gary Parker and the New Garden of Eden. Okay, so, and I'll get back and I'll tell you what that means in a minute. So what happens is you can actually Google that, and you can download the what the reporter wrote about me.
Yeah,
so,
what we'll do is we'll look it up. I'll look it up, and I'll put it in the description as well if anyone's interested in actually looking at that article.
Okay, so back to the alien standing on the crystal platform with the two cherubim below him. What happened was, Manny, as I was looking at them, they didn't look real to me. It looked like a projection. Okay, it looked like I could put my hand through them. It wasn't like they were flesh and bone or anything. So I had said to the alien, to Abba, I said, are those things spinning, and are the angels flapping their wings like a generator? So are you projecting this image? Now you got to remember when Ezekiel had seen supposed God with the cherubim, he saw 4 angels, and he saw the metal spinning wheels. I only saw 2 with the wheels. And I thought, well, the reason why, and I asked him, I said, is it because you're closer to Earth? Is that why Ezekiel saw 4 and I'm only seeing 2? And he said, yes. So they were actually projecting the image. It wasn't them showing up. And he told me, I said, he said to me, he said, Gary, I'll be returning to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem on July 26, 2022. He said, it's your job to warn everybody, because he doesn't want anybody killing each other or shooting at them when they show up. And I said, will you appear like this? And he showed me an image in my head of what it will look like when he shows up, because Manny, I don't know if you're familiar with eschatology, prophecy and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Well, in Judaism, as you know, they believe that the first pyramid, the first temple was built by King Solomon, who was David's son. King David and Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, well, when that got knocked down by the Babylonians, and then the next one was rebuilt, like 400 years later, and then what's it called? The Romans knocked that one down, right? Knocked down that temple. So anyway, he said, Gary, I will be returning in the third temple. Now, as you know, whenever you look at a picture of Israel and you look at the Jewish people, the rabbis, they're all standing on the west wall and they're davening. They're praying to God. You've ever seen them? They're actually davening, which means they're tilting their head back and forth to the Great Wall.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they're actually praying. They pray 3 times a day for the Messiah to show up and for the temple to be rebuilt. Well, they all believe, the Jews believe, that they should build the temple and then God will show up. Well, the entity, the Abba, the alien said to me, Gary, I'm going to be showing up in the third temple, so they don't have to build it. So, because he doesn't want anybody, because as you know, Palestine, the Palestinians and the Muslims, who actually, they actually control the Temple Mount. They're always fighting about the Jews coming up there and praying. The Jews aren't allowed to come up there and pray. Well, he's saying the alien or Abba is saying to me, Gary, I don't want them fighting. I don't want anybody being hurt. I'm going to show up on July 26, 2022, in the third temple. So he showed me an image of what the third temple was going to look like. And have you ever seen War of the Worlds with Keanu Reeves? You ever seen that movie?
Yes.
Okay. In the movie, as you know, it was like a big globe that was spinning around. It looked like a multi-dimensional globe with things spinning around, and it landed in Central Park. Do you remember that scene?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what it's going to look like. That's what's going to land on. That's going to be the third temple.
So is this all connected to, Judgment Day and things like that?
Yes, exactly. That's prophecy. Exactly. That's eschatology, which is prophecy. Yes.
Right.
Everything has to do with Israel, the third temple, and God returning. Okay. They also, now here's another thing too. The alien never, because I said to him, I said, well, then who's the Messiah? Like, is a Messiah going to show up? And he said, Gary, I'm going to show up. So what the Jews believe and what we all believe, because as you know, the Christians believe in a thing called, what's it called? Jesus is going to come down on a cloud. I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's like Judgment Day. Well, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is this being from Cygnus is going to show up, and all the answers are in the Great Pyramid. But you might say to me, well, Garrett, Manny, am I jumping around too much? I feel like I'm jumping around.
No, you're doing just fine.
Everything begins, ends, and begins again with the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid, all these images, all the stuff that was put in this NASA photo came from the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is a machine. Now, you got to remember, this is what the alien has told me and instructed me to show people. The Great Pyramid is a machine. It still works. It's never turned off. And it actually created all these images in the photo. And it took it 13 years to create. It actually, what happened was it did it with vibration, okay? I actually went back 13 years to 2000. You got to remember, the image came up on the NASA photo in 2012. I went back to 1999, and I pulled up. The Egyptian government has a road. They have a satellite for their, whenever they do road repair or any repair on the NASA, on the Giza Plateau, what happens is they take photos of it. So I went to their website. I looked at their satellite images from 1999. In 1999, the writing that is beside the Great Pyramid was all the way at the top of the photo, all the way at the top. By 2012, it comes all the way down from the top and comes all the way down and ends up beside the Great Pyramid, all with vibration. All these images were created. It was pre-designed. Everything was designed by the Great Pyramid. Now, the alien / Abba actually told me how I can prove that it's a machine. Do you remember? Are you ready? Do you want to hear it?
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Okay. Do you remember in 2002? The National Geographic did a video. They did a video of inside the Great Pyramid. It was actually called. Don't tell me. Inside the Great Pyramid, where they sent a robot up the Queen's Chamber shaft. Do you remember that? And it had a camera on it. Do you remember this? It drilled a hole.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Okay. In 2002, there was a National Geographic and Zahi Hawass, who was an Egyptologist running the antiquities department in Egypt at the time. They had sent in the Queen's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. There's there's two shafts, one on the north side, one on the south side. They sent and the shafts are only 8 inches by 8 inches. They built a robot. They put a camera at the end of the robot, and they sent it up. The shaft up. The shaft went up for 220 feet, and it actually took a picture. And there was a block because they wanted to see what was at the end of the shaft. There was a block, and on the block were two hoops, and they were copper hoops. Well, the problem was copper hadn't been invented by humans 1,500 years after the Great Pyramid or before the Great Pyramids were built. Okay, so when they saw the copper hoops, they said, "What the hell is copper doing in the Great Pyramid? That's impossible." So what they did was they noticed they sent sonar up there, and they noticed that the limestone block that the copper hoops were on was only 4 inches thick. So they decided they were going to drill a hole into this block. Well, what they did was they drilled the hole, then they sent a fiber optic camera up there on the robot, and they put the camera through the hole, and they saw 7 inches from that block was another block. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they said, "Oh, well, there's a block." And Zahi Hawass, the host of the show, her name was Laura Green. She said, "Well, Zahi, what are those black marks on the block on the back block?" And he goes, "Those are just cracks." And he got upset about it. He goes, "No, those are just cracks." Because she said, "Well, they don't look like cracks." And he got upset. Well, Manny, they're not cracks. That is a binary code. It's a binary code, and if you zoom in on, if you look at the show, and you pause it, and you what's it called? You look at it on a laptop computer, and you tilt that camera back. I mean, your laptop back, and you use a magnifying glass, you will see that those cracks aren't cracks. They're binary codes, and they're forming a picture. And actually, what it is the Great Pyramid. It can detect technology. So when they sent that camera in there, the light on the camera was too bright. And it kind of, when you look at it on a flat screen, it comes out like a bright light, so you can't see anything. But if you put it on a laptop, you tilt it back, you'll see that it's actually a binary code that's forming a photo. So what happened was the Great Pyramid is it's a machine, and it detects technology. So if they would send the robot back up there with a light that's not as bright, you will see it will send photos, and it will flash almost like a movie theater. It will send pictures to you, and I actually drew one. It's on your website. Hopefully, you'll see that there's a picture that they took in from the show. And it looks like it's red, and it actually has a number 20 above it. And the experts said that those were ancient letters that the Egyptians wrote. They're not letters. There's actually, you will see, if you take your time and you like I said, put it on a laptop computer, and I actually drew a picture of it, you will see three people sitting in a crystal throne flying over a city of crystal pyramids.
So Gary, how did you make that connection between your experience and what was inside this documentary?
Well, Manny, because when I met with the alien, when he told me, he put in my head, go back to this video, look at the video, and you will see, in the video, you will see what's real. You will see, and these are the people that actually built the Great Pyramid. And the people in the Crystal Pyramid are the ancient creator gods of Egypt. One is Ptah, one is Sekhmet, and actually their son is sitting they're in the crystal throne, and the little boy is sitting, his name was Nefertem, is sitting on his father's right shoulder. And they're both wearing those mitre hats, those big like Pope hats, and they have crystals on them. And I actually drew the picture. If you compare my drawing with the photo and you take your time and you really examine it, you will see the people sitting in a crystal throne flying over a crystal city of pyramids.
Well, Gary, you've had an amazing journey the last 2 years.
Dude, tell me about it. It's insane. It's insane.
It's a lot of information.
Dude, well, so that's why when people kick me out of their offices, or these religious people all say, Gary, this is nuts, it's like a tsunami of information that they're getting in like an hour's time. They're not going to believe it. Even if they see it, Manny, they're not going to believe it. But hopefully you and your listeners will say, you know what, I'm going to put a little time into this. I'm going to look at the photos. And after they see it, people are going to say, oh my God, I see it. You know, we have a little under 5 years for everybody to get the warning that the aliens are going to show up on the Temple Mount. So yes, Manny, in the NASA photo, if people, naturally, I've been looking at it for the last 2 years. I look at it every night for between 2 and 3 hours. Every answer to all of mankind, where we came from, how creation happened, how evolution, it's technology, it's alien technology. This photo has been enhanced by the touch of aliens, and their technology has made it four levels deep. And if people please zoom in, zoom out, be in a dark room, use your laptop, you will see everything.
So listen, Gary, we're at the last 5 minutes of the episode, but I have one question, and that is that you started this journey because you wanted to kind of give the area a facelift. What do you think about that project now?
Well, Ben, I think we should do it. I think the world should do it. But you know what? What I've told you for the last hour is more important, that people don't, because when it shows up, man, people are going to freak out when they return. So if I can save one person from having a heart attack or jumping off a building or killing themselves, that's more important than restoring the Great Pyramid.
So with all this information, and like you said, we got 5 years down the line. What happens to Gary now? What is Gary going to do until July 26, 2022?
I'm going to constantly have, I'm hoping that people in the UFO community will have me at their conventions and have me speaking, and actually, so I can get like a feel of one-on-one in an auditorium where everybody can bring their laptops and we'll enhance this photo and everybody will see everything. So that's what and I actually have 5 more radio interviews next week. So I'm going to try to get the word out as much as possible. So yes, so I'm going to go nonstop with this.
So have you considered actually going to Egypt and kind of like a pilgrimage, now that you have this message?
I would love to. I would love to go there. The only problem is if I go to Egypt, and remember it's a Muslim country, so they if I was to stand by the Great Pyramid and I was to do this mantra, I would be arrested. So I'm hoping eventually they will have me there. And they will have seen everything in the NASA photo, and they'll say, well, we got to have him here. He's allowed to do it. He's the only person that's going to be allowed to yell up a mantra or a prayer to Abba, to these alien beings. So I'm hoping that happens. Yes, I would love to go there, but I want to go there with their government officials knowing who I am and knowing that I have a connection to their Great Pyramid. Does that make sense?
So we have a lot of people, and I see where you might have some concern. They believe in, things like the rapture. They believe in the second coming of Christ.
That was the word rapture. I forgot that word rapture.
Right.
That's it. Right.
These people are not really going to accept your message. And they're not going to accept any event happening July 26th of 2022 as something that is of a natural order. So what is your take on what's going to happen if we do have this visitor coming to that temple? Well, first of all, people are going to freak out. Okay, so and let me just say this. I've met with numerous priests, ministers, pastors, and you're right. They refuse to believe it, even though they see it. I mean, I show them the angels, I show them everything, and they freak out. I had one guy actually say, "Gary, you got to leave. You just have to leave." I said, "Yeah, but you guys always talk about," and believe it or not, Jesus is in this photo in 4 different places. He's all over this place. So, he'll be coming back, but he's coming back with this alien that I met at the river. Manny, I'm sorry I keep talking so much. What was your question? How do you think people are going to really take this? Because a lot of these events are tied to, religious beliefs. And it seems like this is going to be a period that's going to be filled with a lot of angst, a lot of terror. I mean, people are not going to be happy about this. Yes, but what it's going to do is the being, and he told me this. Believe it or not, the Jewish people are the chosen people. They are his chosen people. So he's going to give everything to Israel, and then Israel is going to let it trickle down to the rest of the world. So yes, and he will only be in Israel. He's not going to. I think he might do a flyby over in Egypt to say hello to the Great Pyramid and everything, but he's going to be in Israel. And just like the Torah says, and man, this, I'm not a religious person. I haven't been to a church or a temple or a synagogue in 40 years, but I seem to be the messenger boy. So yes, they're going to be terrified, but hopefully, like I said, we'll get the word out, and they'll refuse to believe it until it happens. And then everything that we believe for the last 2,000 years about Christianity or any other kind of faith, they're going to have the answers to it. So, and a lot of the answers are right here in the NASA photo. So, it's an amazing story. So, I got one more question before I let you go because we're going over our time. Sure. When we listen to your story and you have this contact with this entity who says he's coming back, we have a lot of people now that say that they're having these experiences right now one-on-one with, entities from other civilizations, other planets coming here and so forth. Is there a connection between these two in any way? No. The alien who I met and the one that's in the NASA photo who I outlined his left profile, he is the one who created us. Now, and it's all in the NASA photo. The whole creation, the whole furnace of creation is in the NASA photo. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you have the photo on a laptop and you tilt it all the way back, so the screen is lying on the desktop, you will see that all the lights go out except for the lights on the Great Pyramid and on the 3 pyramids. That's the only lights remain. That was in the Bible where it says, "And God created light." That's the light. There's a light of knowledge,
It's knowledge coming from the Great Pyramid. So this is the guy. Now, I have spoke with some scholars, and they said, well, Gary, we feel as though God doesn't have a head and arms, legs, that he's a spirit. And I said, I'll accept that. Absolutely. And that's what I always believed. But I said, and he may be a spirit. I said, but the person who created us has a head, has shoulders, has arms and feet and legs, and it's this being in the photo.
That's amazing, Gary. I mean, you've had
dude,
an incredible 2 years.
Dude, it's been amazing.
Yeah, incredible. So listen, is there any way that people can contact you if they have any questions or if they have anything they want to add or send you that possibly could add to what you're going through, basically enhance your knowledge? Sure.
I actually have an extra email address, and they can email me because I've been so busy. I can't build websites, and Manny, I'm not technologically. I'm computer illiterate pretty much. So, but they can email me at g.parker, Parker, 36 Gary. Hold on, dude. Let me make sense because I just got this. Hold on. I'm sorry, man. I didn't have that prepared. I should have had that prepared. Hold on 1 sec. Yes, g.parker, Parker, 36 Gary, Gary, 1 R, at AOL.com. That's g.parker, 36 Gary, at AOL.com. So yeah, yes, I would be more than happy to send whoever emails me, some information. I'd like to check their stuff out too.
Well, Gary, like I said, it's a great experience you've shared with us today. And I'm thinking everyone is going to be circling that data on the calendar, just waiting at the edge of their seats to see what happens.
Cool. And Manny, have me back on. I have more to tell you, and it's exciting.
Yeah, perfect. We absolutely will schedule you in the future so you can give us an update and let us know what's going on.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Gary Parker, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Same here, man. Thanks, Manny.
Thank you. So there he is. That's Gary Parker's story, what he experienced over the last 2 years. And, like I said before, you have to keep an open mind because the answer is out there. The answer to this UFO ET connection, it's somewhere in all these stories. One of those, or maybe a few of those, are going to be the ones that are going to take us to where we need to be to answer what is happening. And as you've seen here and on any other show that you listen to, you know that the stories are plentiful. The avenue in which these entities take to communicate to people vary greatly, but they all have one common denominator, and that is that there is something out there. And it's up to you and I to figure out what that is. This is Manny Moonraker signing out. Catch you during the week for the UFO news reports. Peace.